is there an equivalent of the HFEA in Spain? And also, what is the situation for funding of fertility treatment in Spain? Is there good state funding, unlike here in the UK?
With regard to the first question, there is an equivalent body, but it has more of an advisory role than a regulatory role. And that's a big difference between the two. With regard to the second question, it was about the funding. Funding in general for research in Spain is not comparable at all to the funding in the UK. And I think that if there is a dearth of funding for this field in the UK, you can imagine what's happening in Spain. I think, and I tried to make the point in my talk, I think part of the problem is that IVF is seen a lot as a technique. That's my view, not as an integral part of biological research. And I think this is something that has to change, and that I feel perhaps these stem cell embryo models and the relationship that they have to embryos might help alert the funding bodies that research can be complementary and that it can be used, this new field, to foster research in.
Great, thank you for that. So, Grace, a couple of questions for you. One, somebody wants to know, was there a cost to IVF when you went through the process? Did you have to pay to be part of that research? And did you have to meet any eligibility criteria? And then the other question is, are you still in touch with any of the other women from the Ovum Club? And can you explain a bit more how it came about?
Oh, sorry, what was the first one again?
So the first one was, did you have to pay to be
Oh,
part
right.
of that trial? And yes, or I suppose that's a yes or no. And then did you have to meet any eligibility criteria to take part in it?
Yeah. We didn't pay anything apart from our own accommodation that we had to find for ourselves for the time before you actually went into Kershaw's. But that was it. Once you were actually a patient in Kershaw's and the operations, etc., no, there was no cost for any of the girls. You know, that was all covered by the NHS. And the second bit, sorry, I've forgotten again.
So yes, it's okay. So the Ovum Club, could you just say a little bit more about it, and whether you're still in touch with any of the other women?
Oh yes, I have. We were, well, it came about, as I said, the Ovum Club was founded on the day that Patrick was retiring, or the party that we had. So the girls that were there at that time, quite a few of them I had met the year before, and I did keep in touch with quite a few of them. Unfortunately, some have now passed away, but yes, in fact, I was in touch with one of my friends today, Cynthia Harrod Eagles. I met her when I came down. As the part of that second question, did we have to have, was there some kind of criteria? Yes, you obviously had to fit, be eligible in that your ovaries were functioning, the womb was functioning. But for most of us, it was we didn't have tubes. Our fallopian tubes had either been completely blocked or removed. And I met this one friend in particular that time when I came down, first of all, to find out if I would be eligible to go on the programme. And she was very, very supportive, and I've kept in touch with her ever since. So, and a lady in Glasgow, I keep in touch with her all the time as well.
It's brilliant after all these years. And
Yeah.
Alistair, someone wants to know, has being such a famous IVF baby influenced choices throughout your life? Think it's had an impact?
To be honest, I have never been asked a question like that before, so it's a very good question. Thank you very much. And I also have never ever thought of myself as a famous IVF baby, but I guess I have to accept I probably am. But in terms of the question, the main thing, yes, it certainly has influenced choices, and the big thing is grab every chance I get and live life to the fullest. I think. I mean, I've been lucky enough to be given this chance of life as a miracle when it happened, and I do believe that's why I love traveling. I mean, my mum's taught me to love traveling, but I love traveling. I love going around the world. I love experiencing new cultures and new places. So I think from that, if I get an opportunity, I try to grab it as best I can. And the other thing I would probably say is in my life as well is I've been a very inquisitive person, and I think how IVF came about. I think I've just known to question absolutely everything, just to make sure that I don't miss anything when especially with Bob and his research and things. I think with my own job as a systems engineer, I have to do my own research and things as well. So to question everything and to make sure you're not missing everything, I think that's probably comes from being an IVF baby as well, and knowing what had to be done in that kind of research field to make sure it all worked. So I hope that answers the
No,
question.
great. Thank you.
Thank
No,
you.
it's not an easy question to answer
No, it's a
when you've
great
not thought
question.
about it before. And Barry, a couple of questions for you. One, someone's read the Bi News article and said, in the Bi News article, you talk about a time you and Bob had to jump over the fence or gate and break back into the Cambridge lab. If you'd been stopped by the police, do you think humanity might have missed out on IVF? Is it one of those lucky moments?
I certainly think that's true that night, because I didn't put that in my talk if there wasn't time. But the Downing site was locked up at night, and there was a huge 8-foot tall gate blocking the entrance with iron spikes on the top. And there was a small personal gate that was usually left unlocked. That was locked as well. So actually, after Bob said, Barry, let's incubate the sperm and eggs for a while, let's go home for dinner and come back in 2 hours. So we did. And we arrive at the gate and it's locked. Bob turns to me and said, Barry, do you have your key? And I said, no, Bob, graduate students don't get keys. So he said, oh, well. So we legged it over the top and over the iron spikes and everything. So there's a miracle we didn't damage ourselves. That would have been pretty bad. But I also said in my article, had the police caught us that night, we might have been arrested for breaking into the site, and then the experiment would have gone down the tubes that night. We had to do it again.
Brilliant. It's such a fantastic story. It's so great to hear it from you. And and then I'm thinking about Ruth sitting in the car with 5 girls. And and Jenny, please do tell us a little bit more about that. I can't imagine. I think I'm going to say your poor mother in that situation with you all there. How on earth did that work out? And was Barry ever one of the people that had to keep you entertained? He sort of inveigled you so your dad could work for longer.
I don't think so, Barry. Were you? I don't think so. No, I think. I mean, it was lovely meeting all his students, and as I said, they often came back to the house in Cambridge anyway. But my mother must have had the patience of a saint. I don't think I would have lasted for hours at the traffic lights or in physiology with 5 children in the car, and all on the trips we took across Europe. That was pretty amazing to do that. I mean, we all went to America when I was 6, and I was the second of 5 children. So, but they didn't think like that. They were just keen to go away and do different things, both of them.
It's amazing. You must have such vivid and exciting memories of all those times.
Oh, I did. I think we had a
Fantastic.
great time.
Yeah. And so then, Geraldine, someone's asked, do you have any top tips for someone who's interested in pursuing a career in reproductive medicine? So for you to inspire the next generation.
Oh, that's a really difficult question. And it does depend on what aspects of a career you were interested in. There are very few jobs like mine. I love my job. I can do both scientific research and clinical research. I work in a clinic, I work in a university, but those jobs are so few and far between. Most people have to choose whether they want to jump into a sort of clinical setting, clinical workforce, a bit like Jane has explained already, or whether they want to go into the research angle, which would be more going down the route of a PhD and trying to develop clinical links from that point. But I do agree with Alfonso that we need to join up IVF research much more with sort of developmental biology and other fields to make it more legitimate as a funding topic. Thank you.
Great. And Jane, does ARCS have any opportunities or training or for training or events in which undergraduate science students can get involved?
Definitely, definitely. ARCS offer such a variety of training events. And actually, if you're a member of ARCS, many of the events are free or certainly greatly subsidised. Only last week we had a symposium, and we also had an event for higher training. So there are many, many opportunities. So I would suggest look at the ARCS website, and if you become a member, you'll get a lot of these things for free.
And can people from overseas become members of ARCS? Because someone has also asked that as
Yes,
well.
you can become an associate. So yes, there's a wide range of opportunities. So definitely have a look at the website and join us.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, Nick, I think you've been asked possibly the most difficult question. It might be for a historian like choosing, for most people choosing a favourite child. What is your favourite fact or story or discovery around the history of medicine? No pressure.
Well, you're right. We do have a lot, but as it happens, I collect stories like Barry told about seeing early stages of human embryos and fertilization for the first time. There are several of these in A Matter of Life. One of them, Jean Purdy, is the first witness. But I think my favorite story is a story about Miriam Mencken, who was a technician of the American fertility doctor John Rock, who believed in 1944 that she was the first person to see a in vitro fertilized two-cell embryo. Now, that isn't recognized as such today, but she, and at the time many other people, thought it was. And she would tell stories about this, and she would say, when I saw it, I began to scream. And there's a sense of fear that goes along with the sense of excitement. And that's partly nervousness about losing this extremely precious and long sought after specimen, which is actually what happened in that case.
Brilliant. Well, you took me by surprise there with having an answer just like that. So for the year 12 student who's asked a question, we'll get back to you on email about that, about what you should do for your degree, because I think we sort of take a bit too long because we don't know quite what you want to do. So, but we'll certainly follow up with you on that. And so there's just one question that I want to quickly go around you all with now from someone, which is, how can we keep Bob's legacy alive? So I don't know who wants to go first with that. I'm going to go in the order of my screen. So I'm going to go with Grace first. How do we keep Bob's legacy alive?
That's a very difficult one. I think people are doing their best to do that through different associations like your one, like yours, and with the work or the research that is being carried out when Bob's name is continued to be mentioned. I think it's very important that we do make the point that it really all started with Bob and his team at Cambridge, and I think through all these different people who were involved in that, and hopefully through lay people like myself, Alistair and I, as you said earlier, have become patrons of the Fertility Network, and we do always make a point of saying that it's all thanks to Bob and Patrick, that all these babies are here today, and they were the spark that started it all.
Great. And so then to Geraldine.
Well, I think we have to continue the research, and we have to try and break down the barriers and the problems that we face in society, particularly with funding and particularly with the lack of recognition of fertility as a health problem that can and should be treated. That's my short answer.
Alfonso? Oh, you're still on mute, sorry.
Good that I come after Geraldine, because I agree wholeheartedly with what she had said, but I would add two things. One is overlapping. The other is not teaching. I think we have to teach IVF as part of developmental biology courses. As I said, this is a very natural breach that I've discovered, and I think we have to emphasize it. And in terms of recognition, it's not just only recognition of IVF as an important area of research, but I think Cambridge, it surprises me that we laud so much Watson and Crick, and we don't laud enough Edwards. And I think Cambridge should make that as vivid in the minds of the people when they go there as it is, that double helix.
Great. Alistair?
Yeah, I think I think Geraldine certainly. I totally agree with what Geraldine was saying there, with in terms of, I think like governments need to be lobbied to keep the research and the funding alive, especially. I mean, I know Scotland, I think, has allowed three attempts just now, which I think is brilliant, but England's not there. I think it should be. I think I know, and also talk. You know, I mean, I'm forever talking about Bob to people and things like that, and I think that although it's not to everybody, but I mean, I think the more we keep Bob in our conversations, I think the better as well.
Lovely.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. And Jane?
Everything that everybody else has said, and I think, you know, for ARCS, we'll keep having the memorial lecture in Bob's memory on an annual basis, and also through our STEM program, going out to young people, because I think that's where we need to get the youngsters involved and interested in science, and just remind them about Bob.
Barry?
Well, I think the previous speakers have said it all, but I would just add that I think it's most important that the general public is behind this. Ultimately, it's the voters who want money for research and for IVF and so on. And I just add that I think films like Joy don't do a big service, because I was rather appalled at that movie from a scientific point of view, and also the way they slurred Jean Purdy's memory. That disgusted me. But a really good documentary could help. We have a fellow called Ken Burns in the US who does fantastic documentaries. And I think we did a really solid story that pulled all of this together we've talked about tonight, would go a long way towards impressing on the general public how important it is to fund research and make people aware of what goes on behind IVF and infertility.
Fantastic. And finally, Jenny, I'm going to give you the last word on how you'd like your father's legacy to continue.
I think it's really important to engage children when they're young in science. And I think giving opportunities from everybody to everybody, no matter what their background, is really, really important. And bar that, Dad actually getting a place at the Manchester Central High School for Boys, he would have never got on and got to university and had those opportunities. So I think education is the key to it all, plus science being made an interesting, engaging, stimulating subject.
Perfect.
And yes, and Jenny, I said I was going to give you the final word, but that is because I'm an incompetent chair now at the end, and we've run over time. Nick, I am so sorry. Go on.
Well, I don't have to have a word, but if I am allowed one, then as
You
a
are.
historian, I would say we shouldn't just keep telling the stories. A way to keep this alive and keep the legacy alive is to keep revisiting those stories, finding new evidence, new interpretations, new perspectives, because there's a lot more to discover about what Robert Edwards did, and I think it's important that people know.